Our next inductee had a distinguished career in what is known in the boxing circles as the third man in the ring, or referee. He was born in New Jersey, later settled in South Florida, where he began his career. Between amateur and professional fights, it's estimated the number of fights he refereed was somewhere in the thousands, including dozens of world title fights. He was a fixture during the heyday of Miami Beach boxing, where he sometimes worked 2 and 3 shows a week, many of them in the Little River section of Miami. He was also a favorite overseas, especially in Ireland. When refereeing a title fight involving champion Barry McGuigan, he was unable to buy a drink at the local pubs because he was so well liked there. He refereed fights including champions like Alexis Arguello, Michael Dokes, Wilfred Benitez, and Leon Spinks. He was also the third man in the ring for several bouts of some of our Florida Boxing Hall of Fame inductees, such as Frankie Otero, Elisha Obed, and John Mugabe. It's my honor to welcome to the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame class of 2011, accompanied by his son, Keith, referee Eddie Eckert.
Ad for aspiring referees, and he would ref 7 or 8 fights a night for just $5. As you said, Bob, he's a man who's well respected and has worked his way up the boxing ladder. Congratulations to referee Eddie Eckert.
I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity of joining the Boxing Hall of Fame, Florida Boxing Hall of Fame. I've had 3 days here of meeting old friends that I've known for 30 or 40 years. It's been a wonderful opportunity. I want you to meet my son, Keith.
Hey. Dad. Hi. Part of my story got pimped a little earlier, but as quickly as I can. I grew up at ringside. For the time I was about 7 years old, once a week I'd accompany my father to the Little River section that was mentioned, neighborhood of Miami, where fights were held every Thursday night. 8 to 10 fights a night, and I sat at ringside watching my father work those bouts. Many nights he would work the entire card. He started refereeing in 1954. He was 24 years old, and there was so much boxing going on back then that he worked at least 3 nights a week. Thursdays at Little River, Tuesday Miami Beach Convention Center, and Saturdays at the Elizabeth Varick Gym, an old Coast Guard hangar that was transformed into an amateur boxing facility where the young up-and-comers would fight, and when the Golden Gloves passed through town, they'd stop there. He also worked fights at the Mylander Auditorium in Hialeah, James L. Knight Center downtown Miami, at the War Memorial Auditorium in Fort Lauderdale, the Miami High Life Fronton, the Carillon Hotel in Miami Beach, the Holiday Inn West in Fort Lauderdale, the Mahi Temple Shrine Auditorium in Miami, and the Sun Dome here in Tampa. He worked somewhere on Calle Ocho, Southwest 8th Street, in the heart of Miami's Little Havana. He worked fights at the Diplomat Hotel in Hollywood, the Galt Ocean Mile Hotel in Fort Lauderdale, the Sheraton Americas Hotel in Hialeah, the Tamiami Fairgrounds Auditorium in Miami, the Cameo Theater in Miami, the National Guard Army in West Palm Beach, and the Orange Bowl. Miami Marine Stadium on Key Biscayne, Cutler Ridge Auditorium, and a place some may remember called the Sir John Club in Miami. The list goes on and on. If I were to stand here and mention all the fighters, we'd be here all day. You know, somebody actually sent him to Bismarck, North Dakota in January to work a title fight. He didn't have any long underwear. As well as working throughout the United States, he was often sent to other countries to work world championship fights. He's been sent to Panama, Ireland. He's been to Paris, Mexico, South Korea, Japan. I'm sure that there's some I missed, but I think you get the point. He was away from home refereeing a lot, at least 3 times a week when he was in town. At least that's what he told my mom. I can only vouch for Thursday nights. During those early days in Miami, his typical payday for nights was $5 to $15. For a championship bout at the Miami Beach Convention Center, I believe that he was paid $50. While he did get some nice paydays and all expense paid for trips around the globe for the major championship fights he worked, he certainly wasn't doing it for the money. He was doing it because he loved the sport and because he also happened to be pretty darn good at it, which is why I presume he sits here today. He never kept track of how many fights he refereed, how many rounds he worked in his life, but at one point he was averaging about 20 fights a week for many, many years, the better part of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Conservatively, he has probably refereed somewhere in the neighborhood of around 6,000 to 8,000 fights, maybe more. If there is another man out there who's refereed more fights than my father has, it just makes you wonder. I moved from Miami to Los Angeles, California in 1988 to take on a new career challenge. I returned to South Florida about a year and a half ago. On August 28th in 1988, I was sitting alone in my apartment in Marina del Rey one night, channel surfing on the TV, trying to find something to watch. There weren't that many channels back then. It wasn't long before I came upon a boxing match, and I thought, cool. I lucked into catching a fight on TV. It must have been tape delayed because it was prime time on the West Coast, but the fight was being fought in Busan, South Korea. Minutes later, the combatants were introduced. It would be the WBA's world light flyweight champion, Mung Woo Ya, defending his title, taking on Put Oyuthanakorn. A scheduled 12-rounder, the referee was introduced next. Yes, it was my father. Now, how cool is that? I'm recently moved from Miami to Southern California, watching my dad work a fight in Korea on network television, something that had become so common for him that he, or anyone else for that matter, hadn't even bothered to call to tell me that he was going to Korea to work a fight. About 3.5 rounds into the fight, the color commentator, and I really wish I could remember who it was, said the following: "Take a look at how that referee Ed Eckert works a fight. He's quickly in and out when he needs to be, always watching the fighters. He keeps his distance when he needs to and moves in when he has to. But he doesn't try to insert himself into a fight. He doesn't try to become a part of the fight the way many referees out there do. This man's a consummate professional and one of the best in the business." I'll never forget those words. I sat there by myself, and it was the proudest moment of my life. Well ahead on all the judges' scorecards, Mr. Yu went on to retain his title with a TKO at the 2-minute and 58-second mark of the 6th round when my father stepped in to stop the barrage of punches that Putt was absorbing. Aside from the participants and their families, and perhaps some who were there, not a lot of people remember that championship fight some 23 years later. I happen to remember it well, though. But that proudest moment of my life has just been bested, as I am here to see my father honored by being inducted into the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame. I just couldn't be any prouder. And I know this all makes him feel the same way, which is great. Thanks to you all. Thanks to the Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, referee Ed Eckert.